Meeting to order. I have asked Commissioner Smith to lead us in our invocation and our Mayor Pro Tem Blake Massengill to lead us in the pledge. All stand.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Lord, we thank you for the town of Fuquay-Varina. We thank you for the opportunity you give us to serve our citizens, Lord. And I pray that you'll give us wisdom tonight as we look at the issues that are before us, and that you'll guide us in the decisions that we make, and that there'll be good decisions for the good of our community. Father, I do pray for your hand to be on our nation tonight, to be on our state, to be on our community. God, we've been hit with a lot of things in the last few months, a pandemic, and then unrest across our nation. But Father, you weren't surprised by any of this, because you see all and know all that is to come. So Father, what we ask from you tonight is we deal with all of these issues, that first of all, you give us wisdom. But second, and probably more important, that you give us a sense of understanding of our fellow citizens and a sense of compassion for our fellow citizens. And Lord, I pray that when it's all said and done, that we'll be a better and stronger community, better and stronger state, and better and stronger nation as a result of the lessons that we learn through all of this. Father, I do pray for all that's said and done here tonight. Thank you for the opportunity you've given me personally to live in the town of Fuquay-Varina. I pray that all that is said and done here tonight will be pleasing in your sight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please face the flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Black screen to me off.
At this time, I will ask that our town manager review the meeting protocol for the public participation as it relates to this virtual meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. All attendees that have joined the meeting tonight have joined muted. There is both a public hearing and a public comment period this evening, so there will be two times or multiple times for the public to address the board during this meeting. If the public wishes to address the board during the public comment section, again, these are for non-public hearing related matters, or the public hearing, they will need to notify the town host that they wish to speak. For the public's benefit, if you are joining the meeting online and wish to speak, please press the raise hand button in the Zoom app. If you're joining the meeting via telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand. After you've raised your hand, you will enter into a queue. When the public comment or public hearing period begins, Mayor Byrne will ask the town host to recognize you to speak by calling out your name or the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You will be unmuted at this time and allowed to speak. We ask you to begin your comments by stating your name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all can be heard in a timely manner. Once you have finished addressing the board, you will be muted for the remainder of the meeting. And Mayor, that is the meeting protocol for this evening.
Thank you very much. Approval of the minutes from the May 19th, 2020 regular scheduled town board meeting.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. There are no presentations for the June 1st town board meeting. Okay. At this time, the IT director Scott will call on individuals that have virtually raised their hand by way of the Zoom app or by telephone. Those wishing to address the town board will be unmuted one at a time. As a reminder, public comment is for those wishing to speak on matters that are not subject of a public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by stating your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. Scott?
I do not have any hands raised at this time.
Okay. We'll move right on. There were no items tabled from the previous meeting, so we move on to public hearings. Public hearings are a time for the petitioner to present his or her request and for the public to give input and voice their favor or opposition to the request. If you wish to speak, please come to the microphone, sign in, and state your name and address for the record. FY 2020-2021 operating budget and 5-year operating and capital plan. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Board. It's good to be with you this evening. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider adoption of the manager's recommended fiscal year 2020-2021 operating budget, which is the budget ordinance and fee schedule, and the 5-year operating and capital plan for the town of Fuquay-Varina. First, I'm going to make a few comments, and then I have a short PowerPoint presentation to review with the town board this evening. On April 23rd, the governing board heard a presentation from me regarding the proposed fiscal year 21 operating budget for the town. At this budget work session, I presented a balanced budget and 5-year operating and capital plan and led discussion about the impacts of growth on human capital needs, facilities, and the prioritization of infrastructure projects. At the May 4th town board meeting, I provided an in-depth presentation of the proposed fiscal year 21 operating budget, in addition to presentations regarding the town's 5-year operating and capital plan. It was reported at that time to the governing board that a public hearing would be scheduled for tonight's meeting, June 1st, as it relates to the proposed fiscal year 21 operating budget. For consideration, along with the agenda abstract that I'm reviewing with you this evening, is our fiscal year 21 proposed operating budget, which was included in your agenda materials. That included the budget message, the budget ordinance, the fee schedule, the line item budget by department and fund, and the proposed fiscal year 21 budget presentation that was reviewed with you on May 4th. Additionally, you were provided in your agenda materials the 5-year operating and capital plan that was also reviewed with the board and the public on May 4th. The proposed fiscal year 21 operating budget totals nearly $61 million. The proposed budget proposes a tax rate of 39.5 cents for every $100 in tax value, which is 3.5 cents above revenue neutral and 3.75 cents below the current tax rate. The proposed budget also includes increases in certain water and sewer base rates with the implementation of a tiered base rate structure based on meter size. The average residential water user will likely see no increase in their monthly utility bill and may in fact see a slight decrease depending on utilization. Additionally, the proposed budget recommends changes to various charges and fees. The 5-year operating and capital plan is balanced, requiring the need, again, for a 3.5 cent tax rate increase in fiscal year 21, next year's budget, to offset rising construction costs associated with planned and bonded transportation improvement projects and the addition of primarily public safety personnel. Additionally, the plan calls for a 3-cent tax increase in fiscal year 23, 2 years from now, to offset the expense related to the construction, personnel, and outfitting of a 4th fire station. A 2.5-cent tax rate increase in fiscal year 24 to offset expenses related to a new community center and senior center, and a 3-cent tax rate increase in fiscal year 25 to offset expenses related to the construction, personnel, and outfitting of a 5th fire station. As you know, those tax rate increases may not be required or even materialize depending on growth and changes that may occur over that 5-year horizon. We evaluate those on an annual basis. The plan further includes the addition of personnel, capital equipment, and capital projects to match the pace of growth and is consistent with the direction set by the town board at the strategic planning retreat. The 5-year plan also takes into consideration recommendations from various town master plans and studies. And additionally, the 5-year plan reflects the need for water and sewer base rate and volumetric rate increases in fiscal year 24 to offset various preferred growth area infrastructure projects, as well as anticipated increases by wholesale water suppliers. The action recommended tonight, after my presentation of a few slides, is for the town board to conduct a public hearing, followed by a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2020-2021 operating budget to include the budget ordinance, the fee schedule, and the 5-year operating and capital plan as presented and recommended. And after my slide presentation, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board has either before or after the public hearing. I am submitting this agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. So you should have in front of you on your screen, on the screen in front here just to my right, a slide presentation, and the public should also be seeing this via the live feed on YouTube. And so what I'm going to do is just go over a brief number of slides related to both the 2021 budget and the 5-year plan. And so I want to just again remind the board about our 10-year fund balance history. As you can see here, our trend is that it's going up over the last 10 years. We had a little bit of a dip in 2018, and that was a planned reduction in fund balance to offset some of the debt service for our transportation-related projects. You can see in 2019, that has gone up, and we expect at the end of this fiscal year ending June 30th in 2020, it will be an additional uptick by a small margin. We're evaluating that closely because obviously the impacts related to COVID-19 will have an impact on our projected numbers as we anticipate compared to what we discussed with the town board at our strategic planning retreat back in January before COVID-19 really escalated. This is a pie chart snapshot of how our fiscal year 21 budget revenues are differentiated in terms of percentages. Here you can see the lion's share of our tax revenues come from ad valorem taxes, or about 43%. 13% come from sales and use taxes. 7% come from restricted intergovernmental revenues, like POW bill funds, POW bill funds of revenues. Permits and fees make up about 5%. We do have some appropriations in this fiscal year budget. 9% of revenue comes from an appropriation in fund balance, which has been previously reviewed with the board and the public in previous presentations. Our 10-year property tax rate history, you can see from 2011 to 2016, we remained flat. And we've remained flat for the last 4 years. Ever since 2017, when we had our last reval, we remained at 43.25 cents. This chart for the next year, when it says 2021 at the bottom, will actually go down if the board adopts the budget this evening at 39.5 cents. It'll be a reduction in the bar chart. Here is a trend of our 10-year property value history. And as you can see, we have steadily increased since 2010 in property value. More residential, more non-residential development has occurred over that 10-year horizon, and property values have also increased over that time. You can see we're just short at the end of 2019 of $3.5 billion, and we're projecting to be over $3.6 billion with fiscal year 21's budget plan. This is a pie chart breakdown of our expenses in the fiscal year 21 budget. And you can see the 3 departments that make up the lion's share of expenses are public safety related, 2 of them, police and fire, 18% in fire, 15% in police, and 14% in parks, recreation, and cultural resources. And you can see how the other departments break down in the percentage of total expenses for the town as well. As a matter of how $100 is split for every $100 in tax revenue or in revenue that the town receives, This is how it's split on an expenditure basis. 33% or $33, which makes up about $14.1 million, goes to public safety. 33% of our budget goes to public safety. 15% goes to quality of life related expenses, arts and recreation, $6.5 million. That's 15% or 15 of every $100 we collect. For public works, it's 13% or $13 for every $100 we collect goes towards public works, $5.8 million. 4.3 million or 10% or $10 for every $100 we collect goes to economic and community development. Development services makes up 9% or $9 of our every $100 that we collect. Internal services like finance and human resources, things of that nature, goes towards 8% or $8 of every $100 we collect. General government is 3%, debt service is 7% or $7, and debt reserves, revenue that we bring in but that we put aside for future debt, in this case transportation-related projects, makes up 1% or $1 for every $100 we collect. As it relates to our 5-year plan, this is a summarized snapshot of revenues for the general fund over the course of that 5-year horizon, anywhere between $43 million in revenue in fiscal year 21, all the way to as high as $51.6 million in fiscal year 23. Let me just make note here, those items in blue represent the tax increases that are planned over this 5-year horizon. And as you recall, in fiscal year 23, it is planned for a 3-cent tax rate increase for fire station number 4. In fiscal year 24, a 2.5-cent tax rate increase to offset the expenses related to the community center and senior center. And in fiscal year 25, another 3 cents for fire station number 5. On the expense side, what you see here in blue or purple are debt service related expenses. But the really snapshot picture I want you to pay attention to is the bottom line. You see zeros or hash marks. That means we are balanced in all 5 years of the 5-year plan for the general fund. Same applies for the enterprise fund. These are your revenue snapshots here. And you can see where we have planned increases for water and sewer. In fiscal year 24, those are volumetric increases related to expected increases by wholesale providers. And in fiscal year 21, those are the changes to the tiered base rate structure. Revenues total anywhere between $19.2 and $22.2 million over the 5-year horizon. And the big snapshot here is the summary of expenses. The bottom line, revenues over or under expenditures. You can see it's net even there. That demonstrates that we are balancing our 5-year plan. I'm happy to answer any questions the town board has. I'm very confident with the recommended budget that I have before you. I think we've vetted it extremely well. I want to thank our town board for providing vision and direction, both at our strategic planning retreat and at our budget workshop as we've gone through this process, and really throughout the last 5 or 6 months since we started our budget process. I definitely want to thank the 2 assistant managers, Assistant Manager Mark Matthews and Assistant Manager Jim Seymour, for their input and attention to this budget preparation, and particularly want to thank Joanne Crabtree and all of the members of our finance department for their tireless effort to help prepare not only the presentations but the budget as a whole itself, and all of our department directors. They all gave input. There was a give and take for all of our directors. There were things that they requested in the budget process that we may have had to plan out in future years so that we could have a balanced budget plan that met the goals and objectives of both the community and our town board, and also met the goals and objectives of our staff. And I want to thank our directors for the professionalism and the work that they put into this process as well. I'm very pleased to present this recommended budget to the town board this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
You know, Adam, I'll just make a comment. This has been a very seamless, I think, budget for all of us, starting with the planning retreat that took place January, February timeframe, and bringing us to this point. Our commissioners have had an awful lot of input into this budget process, as well as the staff, the directors, and you know, department heads. And I would just ask if any commissioner would like to make a comment or two. We'll start with our Mayor Pro Tem. He's been active in this too.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of time and effort went to this budget, so thank you for that time that was with that, and I am in support of this budget tonight. It does a great strive toward increasing some of our core areas, consisting of police and fire, for instance, trying to increase our ratios and making them much more positive for our community as we continue to grow. Public utilities sees a great investment as we're continuing to provide citizens with services consisting of water and sewer, and public works also at the same time with the additional crew members that are being put in here. And what's important to me in any budget is what we can provide for the citizens, and these are just a few points within this budget, along with many other things that are in this budget that are quality of life items that really are good things that are being provided to our citizens and a community of Fuquay-Varina. I think it can be seen now and today more than ever that it's important to be mindful of the citizens and what's important to them, and this budget addresses that. And for that being said, I am in favor of the budget.
Commissioner Harris, you have any words of wisdom for us with this budget?
I'd just like to say thank you to our town manager and finance director and assistant town managers and staff to prepare a budget during such a trying time in the midst of COVID-19, and being able to work through and bring us a budget that reflects the core principles outlined in the budget statement, which was service, quality of life, affordability, economic development, and fiscal strength. I think that it's been a challenge, and I like the way each of us as commissioners had an opportunity to have input. May not have necessarily agreed with all that was included in the budget, but I think it's the best budget during this fiscal time that we can have before us. And you know, I look forward to working through this budget. And again, I appreciate Adam, I appreciate you and your effort, and Ms. Crabtree and all of the staff, directors here who chimed in during a very difficult time and were able to come with a document and a plan that we're able to implement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Gardner, words of thoughts and wisdom for us.
I don't have a lot to add to what our two commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioner Harris, have already said. I just think back to our retreat, and it was a very intense retreat this time, and a little bit different from the others that I'd been to. But little did we know that day what the next few months held for us, and I'm just astounded by the wonderful job that our town manager, our assistant managers, our finance director, and the staff have done bringing this budget together, and even addressing things since our some of our budget meetings. I think we've come up with something that does serve the citizens well, and again, in a very difficult time. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wunsch, please share your thoughts and ideas with us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just echo what has already been said. Particularly putting this together in a pandemic is just amazing. And I'm sorry, I'm going to sit closer to the microphone here. Particularly putting this together in a pandemic is amazing. What has been put forth, and it meeting our current needs, looking to the future of our future needs, as well with staffing and equipment and everything we needed. It's a long process, but it's just another outstanding budget. I've had the privilege of, I think this is my 7th now, and so I appreciate all the hard work that's gone in it from staff members. I know I really came to appreciate it after I had to take this class in my MPA program, and if I ever appreciated staff and Adam Mitchell, I appreciated him after that class, because this is one tough thing to do, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, please share your thoughts. And
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like the other commissioners have stated, I 100% support this budget that's been presented tonight. I do want to take a split second to say how very pleased I am with the vision that was in the 5-year plan. When I look ahead at some of the things that you and your staff, Mr. Town Manager, have tried to start planning for: water infrastructure, another community center, a senior center, and the investments that we're making in public safety in both police and fire. I'm very pleased with that, and I think it shows vision. It shows concern for what our community is going to look like over the next 4 or 5 years, and I was very pleased with that part of the budget. Obviously pleased with the next fiscal budget, but I was very pleased with the vision that I saw in the 5-year plan, and I appreciate your hard work and all of the department heads, and obviously the planning department, the finance department, for the hard work they put into this. Thank you.
You know, just in conclusion, obviously it was a well thought out process that went into this budget, coming from this town board up through the staff and Adam, your diligent attention to it as well. I would certainly entertain a motion at this time.
Public hearing.
We got to have the public hearing, that's right. Well, better slow up here a little bit. I'm trying to get there, but we're all very much in favor of it. Okay. Do we have anybody signed up for the public hearing?
See no hands raised right now.
Okay. Well, I will entertain, you still got to have the public hearing.
Yeah, I would open it, and I would
Open and
officially
close
open
it.
it and close it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to open the public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak in favor of this annexation, or no, excuse me, of this budget for 2020-21?
Doesn't appear to be anybody who wishes to speak from the
Okay.
public, Mayor.
All right. Does anybody wish to speak against it? We don't have anybody there either.
We
I
don't.
would say the hearing is now closed. Any discussion by the board? And if not, it would come with my full recommendation.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the 2020 to 2021 operating budget, including budget ordinance, fee schedule, and 5-year operating capital plan as presented and recommended tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations. We have a new budget moving forward. Now you've got to put it into action.
Yes, sir. We've
By
got some,
July the 1st. You got
we
a
have
month.
some work to do between now and July 1st. I appreciate that from the town board. I did want to just add one more thing that I think is a little bit unique about this budget and 5-year plan.
Okay.
I've mentioned it before, but I think it's worth mentioning it again. This was an entirely paperless budget as it relates to management and department directors. The entire budget was done online with our financial system, and I look back at
This is the first year of that.
first year of that. I look back at Commissioner Smith, who when he was police chief, remembers bringing in thick notebooks full of paper with multiple copies that were distributed amongst finance director and management as we would discuss, and that was for every department. We've gone completely paperless, and the budget conversations between management and department directors were done entirely virtually or remotely. I did not sit in a single room physically with any department director during this budget process, nor did other members of management, nor did the finance department. We did it completely through a remote video conferencing session. In some cases, multiple sessions, but we never physically sat in the room, and obviously that was a result of COVID-19. Certainly a unique way to do a budget process. I'm not sure that the department directors got the full visual effect of my facial expressions when there was something in the budget proposal that I did not agree with, but we got the point across eventually, and it was a process that worked for us. And in fact, if we have to do that again in the future, we're prepared for it. And so, two unique factors that I'm very proud of that we were able to achieve this year.
You know, and Joanne played a big part.
She did.
In this, and she was a welcome addition to a finance department that we appreciate Joanne's hard work and
Absolutely.
And helping facilitate this all the way through.
Absolutely.
Adam, I had just a quick observation question. I'm feeling like 7 years ago, and this just shows our growth and prosperity that we've had as a town. When the Mayor Pro Tem and I came on our first, and you did, I believe our first budget was around $18 million.
It was around 28 million when you factored in the enterprise fund. 28 to 30 million dollars when you factored in the enterprise fund. Now it's a combined 61 million. A lot of that has to do with debt and projects and things that we're advancing our community with. But it was a significantly lower number 7 years ago than it is today.
And growth.
Growth plays a major role in that. That's exactly right.
Thank you.
But it's a good observation for sure.
Okay, we'll move right ahead then.
Yes, sir.
We go to 7B, I think I'm correct.
You are.
Voluntary annexation petition, Gala Construction LLC 908 Flat Stone Drive, ANX 2020-06. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider an annexation ordinance extending the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina following a receipt of a petition for voluntary annexation of property owned by Gala Construction LLC, 908 Flat Stone Drive, containing a total of approximately 1.347 acres. The property is non-contiguous to the town's corporate limits. Water is available, but sewer is not yet available to the property. The petitioner has signed an annexation agreement that will not obligate the town to provide sewer or garbage services. At the May 19, 2020 meeting, the town board instructed the town clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the applicant's petition, and the town clerk certified that the petition was sufficient and meets the requirements prescribed by North Carolina General Statute. The present total value of the property is $58,500. The recommendation this evening is to first conduct a public hearing, followed by a motion to adopt the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina to include property owned by Gala Construction LLC, 908 Flatstone Drive, annexation petition ANX 2020-06, and to approve the declaration of annexation agreement as presented and recommended. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has either before or after the public hearing. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this voluntary annexation petition?
I see no hands raised.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this voluntary annexation petition?
Again, no hands raised.
Thank you, Scott. The hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion by the board? And if not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one brief question.
Asked away.
Thank you, sir. I've seen many times when we aren't able to provide sewer. I can't recall when we didn't provide garbage services. I'm just curious as to why, and is that a permanent thing for eternity?
Yeah, so no, there are instances where we have not provided garbage service, especially if this is an annexation in an existing subdivision where there are no other properties within the corporate limits. We wouldn't drive the garbage truck all the way into the subdivision deep into a cul-de-sac, and this In this example, just to provide service to one customer, the business case on that is not favorable to the town. And so we have had those instances in the past. And in this case, this is just an undeveloped lot in an existing neighborhood that is not in the town corporate limits, but it does have town water available to it.
Okay. I thought that might be what it was, but I just wanted to make sure. No,
Yes,
no
sir.
further questions. Thank you, sir.
Okay. The hearing is now closed. Any discussion by the board? And we've had some. Any more discussion by the board? If not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt the annexation ordinance as recommended and presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 7C, zoning map amendment, Gala Construction, 418 Washington Street, REZ 2020-02. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 0.344 acres located at 418 Washington Street from the residential medium-density RMD zoning district to the town center TCR zoning district. The subject property totals, again, 0.344 acres and is located in the town's corporate limits and is currently the site of a single-family home. The zoning map amendment petition requests approval of the town center residential TCR zoning district. The TCR zoning district requires submittal of a master plan. However, proposed developments totaling 4 lots or fewer are permitted to submit a plat plan in lieu of the required master plan. The zoning map amendment requests the subdivision of 1 lot, as seen on your screen in front of you, into 2 lots, and as such, a plot plan has been submitted. The plot plan includes a note section that details site-specific provisions for development of the subject property as it relates to design elements and community character. The provisions are as follows. 1 street tree will be installed in the front yard of each house. Front door will include partial glass and transom, and this is for only the new lot, 50, which is shown on the proposed plot plan. And third, a front elevation will have a siding, shutter, and shake accents, and this only applies to the new construction on the new lot, also depicted on the plot plan. The subject properties are located in the southern end of the Lincoln Heights neighborhood. Surrounding properties are a mix of uses, including other single-family residences, the Lincoln Heights Elementary School, as well as industrial warehouses. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the town center residential TCR classification at the subject properties. The requested zoning district is consistent with the 2035 Land Use Plan. Public water and sewer utilities are available to serve the subject properties. The subject properties are located on and have access to Washington Street, which is classified as a local street by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan. A neighborhood meeting was held by the petitioner on February 5th of 2020, and that meeting report was provided in your agenda materials. Management and staff are recommending approval of the proposed zoning map amendment, subject to the petitioner consenting to add a condition stating that, quote, vinyl siding is not permitted except for use as windows, decorative elements, and trim, end quote. The purpose of this recommendation is to yield the best look and durability for the home and the neighborhood over time. Vinyl is less dense and durable than many other home facade products and subject to not holding up as well to heat and cold cycles. It degrades and becomes brittle and less impact resistant over time. Higher quality finishes are in the best interest of the public in that they enhance neighborhoods and promote higher quality development and protect the value of existing properties. And subject to this revision being made, the petition is consistent with our 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan and is reasonable in the best interest of the public for those reasons I've mentioned and these. First, the requested zoning map amendment for the town center residential is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan classification for town center residential. Second, the requested zoning district supports infill development and reinvestment in downtown neighborhoods per our 2035 land use plan recommendation of LU.4, which is encouraging infill development and redevelopment inside the town limits. Third, the requested zoning district is complementary to residential uses in the general vicinity. And fourth, the plot plan specifies identified by the petitioner promote community character and provide compatibility to surrounding neighborhoods. This case was originally scheduled to be heard at the March 16th, 2020 Planning Board meeting, but due to social distancing protocols enacted by the town, the meeting was canceled and all cases were delayed until the next scheduled meeting. This case was re-advertised in accordance with North Carolina general statutes. At the May 18th regular meeting of the Planning Board unanimously voted to recommend approval, finding it reasonable and in the best interest of the public for those reasons that were identified by staff. The Planning Board also supported staff's recommendation to add the vinyl restriction condition. The action recommended to you this evening is to first conduct a public hearing, followed by a motion to approve REZ 2020-02, a zoning map amendment at 418 Washington Street from the residential medium-density RMD zoning district to the town center TCR zoning district. Subject to the petitioner consenting to add a condition stating that vinyl siding is not permitted except for use as windows, decorative elements, and trim as recommended by management and staff. The proposed amendment with the added condition is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan and is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for those reasons identified by management and staff. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board has, either before or after the public hearing. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. That concludes my presentation, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move right on into it. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment?
Yes, we have one person, Jason Gallagher.
Okay, Jason, go right ahead.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to present another TCR project for the board's consideration. It has been over 3 years since our first project was started in Lincoln Heights. Since then, there has been tremendous growth and revitalization in the neighborhood with the addition of new homes and the remodeling of existing homes. As a resident of Lincoln Heights, I can personally attest to the overall quality and value of the homes that are currently being built there. Tonight for your consideration is another project which has a condition of no vinyl siding added for its approval. The addition of the no vinyl siding condition is not in the best interest of the neighborhood due to the impact this would have on the price point of homes in this area. As we all know, affordable housing is something that our nation and the town of Fuquay-Varina is in short supply. The homes currently being built in Lincoln Heights are typically under $215,000 and around 1,500 to 1,600 square feet, with quality exteriors consisting of vinyl shake, siding, board and batten, and the addition of decorative front doors. Understandably, there are positive intentions and advantages to the no vinyl siding policy. However, this condition would be better served in other parts of Fuquay-Varina, where the price point of homes is higher and more easily absorbed into the overall cost of homes. Further, the addition of this condition is detrimental to the overall value and affordability of homes in Lincoln Heights for the following 3 reasons. The policy adds an additional $4,000 to $5,000 per home, making the homes less affordable. The policy disincentivizes builders and developers from developing projects in Lincoln Heights using the TCR zoning. Finally, the policy adds an expense to the homeowner for maintenance. For example, a typical power washing for vinyl siding is about $200 a year versus a new paint job, which is around $3,000 to $4,000, which would be necessary on a 6 to 8 year cycle. The end result being homes that need to be repainted will not be repainted, therefore lowering the overall aesthetic appearance, quality, and value of Lincoln Heights. However, in contrast, the use of vinyl siding offers a lifetime warranty on the product for color and maintenance. It is worth noting that only one other project has been passed with this new condition. The lot has not been built upon and is currently for sale today at $144,900. Due to the no vinyl siding condition, this has more than likely pushed pricing up on this lot in order to accommodate a larger, higher priced home, as detailed in the MLS listing. Lots typically in Lincoln Heights range from $30,000 to $40,000. In closing, the no vinyl siding policy is not a viable option for Lincoln Heights project in that it does not contribute to affordable housing in Fuquay-Varina. It disincentivizes builders, and it would add additional expenses to the homeowner for maintenance. I would respectfully ask the board to consider the information presented and allow this project to move forward using an all vinyl exterior as other homes in the past have been. Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, so you were speaking in favor of, is he still on the line?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You're speaking in favor of.
I'm in favor of the project, not the condition of the no vinyl siding.
Okay. You're in favor of them, okay.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is he's in favor of the zoning map amendment, but not the staff and planning board recommendation of the vinyl siding condition.
Okay. All right.
No vinyl siding condition.
Scott, we have anybody else?
No, sir.
Okey doke. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the zoning map amendment? You have anybody there, Scott?
No, sir. No hands raised.
Okay. The hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion by the board at this time?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. If I don't know if the petitioner is still on the line. I would like to know how many.
We've moved out of the public hearing part, so he
Okay.
would not be on the line.
But can the town manager answer this question? Do we know how many homes that this petitioner has built and how many have vinyl siding of the number that he's already built?
I don't know the number off top. I know that he has built
Several.
built several homes in the last several years. I know some have had the condition of no vinyl siding and some have not, and so there's been a mixed bag.
Okay. I do have a comment, if I can hold the floor for a minute.
Yes, sir.
In looking at this, I personally, when I was working with the planning department, that short time I was with the planning department, spent a considerable amount of time in the Lincoln Heights subdivision or neighborhood, and began to watch as this neighborhood began to see some redevelopment in it, infill with some of the vacant lots and some of the homes that had deteriorated to the point they were being torn down and replaced. I've been very pleased with the enhanced visual optics of the neighborhood, and just this weekend, my wife and I drove through the neighborhood and looked at the new homes and looked at a large number that have vinyl siding. And some of the things that the petitioner mentioned, I have personal experience with, and that a lot of times the hardy plank does need to be repainted in 4, 6, 7 years, and it is rather expensive versus a $200 to $300 vinyl siding power washing. I struggle with requiring him to put this out there and put a more expensive siding, especially in light of the fact this is an area that we are encouraging redevelopment in infill, and also in light of the fact that Fuquay-Varina is rapidly developing and affordable housing is harder to find in this community. Our price points have gone up quite a bit, which is a good thing. We're building very nice homes in our area, and they do cost more money. So for those reasons, while I am very much for this rezoning, I'm personally will struggle voting for this with this attached to it. That's my thoughts on the matter.
You're saying struggle voting with what attached?
Requiring a no vinyl siding requirement on there. Being that the others in the neighborhood that this petitioner has built, the ones I've seen all have vinyl siding, and they all, I think, have added a very good visual optic to the neighborhood, and I'm just trying to stay consistent with what we've allowed them to do in the past. So that's my feelings on the matter.
Let me ask this question, Mr. Town Manager. Do we have other houses in the neighborhood that have been built that offer the vinyl siding as an option?
You do have, so let me back up. Several years ago, staff began making recommendations to the town board that for reinvestment and redevelopment of residential properties in neighborhoods generally, not just this neighborhood, but neighborhoods generally, that a higher quality product be used for the facade of the home. The reasons being were the same reasons that I mentioned earlier in my
Some
presentation.
people felt like that we were cheapening it too much in neighborhoods by building.
I think generally if you're going to redevelop, you want a higher quality product than was perhaps there before.
Yes, okay.
Now, in the Lincoln Heights neighborhood or vicinity, there are new redeveloped homes that were done prior to that sort of standard being recommended or suggested by management and staff that were vinyl siding that are still very fairly and very recent, but not necessarily within the last couple of years. There are also homes that have been built in the last couple of years that do have the no vinyl siding requirement to it. I think of a few right there near the intersection of Highway 42 and Bridge Street, for example.
We did part of those, didn't we do one side of them where they?
That's right, the front facade, and then we added some additional landscaping requirements, exactly. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that the whole thing had to be, but the front facade had to be. And so, then those were voluntarily offered up during the zoning process. So, and then there are some existing homes in the neighborhood that are currently there that are older existing homes that are all brick. And so you sort of have a mixed bag, if you will, of homes, both new and older, that are of varying degree of product quality and material in the neighborhood. Our efforts as staff and management in terms of our recommendations to the board have been fairly consistent, though, over the last year and a half, 2 years, in that it makes sense from a planning perspective that as properties, especially in the older neighborhoods and sections of our town, are redeveloped or infilled with new development, that the product and the quality be potentially or perhaps a higher quality than what exists there now. And so that's the justification for the recommendation.
How about the planning board? Do they have input into this part of the process?
They did. Planning board heard this zoning request, this zoning map amendment request, and they agreed with staff's recommendation that the TCR zoning is consistent with our land use plan, and so therefore they supported it and make a recommendation to the town board that you approve it, but they also believed that there was good justification and reason for the recommendation of the no vinyl siding condition, and so that they recommended that the town board approve the zoning map amendment subject to that condition being added.
Okay. Any further discussion by anyone else?
Are there any thought to any accent features that could be done to the house that maybe is a meet in the middle where he could use vinyl siding but doesn't need to use, let's not say hard because it's a brand like Kleenex and facial tissue, but
Right.
instead cement siding? Any thought given to any accents, maybe what it might be from a cost standpoint, kind of meet in the middle, but still give that kind of look that's going there for the community?
Of course, one of the petitioner's proposed conditions, I believe, is that the front elevation would have a siding shutter and shake accents. And so I think the petitioner has voluntarily offered up a front facade variation in material, still siding, but a variation in its aesthetic look to try to provide some unique distinguishing features to that property that others around it may not have.
I know that staff's been really tracking and following different kind of infill developments and houses and things that are being done in our community, also with vinyl siding. no different than with cement siding or any other product. There's a variety of quality levels also. And there is vinyl siding products out there that are very good quality products, just like there are some that are cheaper and some are more expensive and also, or better quality. And same with cement siding, you have some non-vinyl siding type products that are better quality and some that are worse quality too at the same time. I think if the gentleman wants to use, he's trying to invest in the community and wants to use vinyl siding, that I would be in favor of staff and the petitioner over the next 2 weeks, ironing out a little bit more details on what he wants to use right there and trying to find a compromise of what he's trying, of the look that the area to fit with the existing houses and the type product there, so that it's not a product that's put on a house that in 3 years looks real bad, but instead something that the staff feels good about, something that can last right there, and hopefully find some kind of middle, a little bit more, maybe of a middle ground compromise. Maybe, for instance, vinyl siding is going to be used as a high quality vinyl siding, not a 2-year product, but that also maybe a brick or stone accent to go with it. Maybe that would help offset it, some of it on the front. The front is the main concern always in these products. I mean, the sides and rear are too, but I mean, what you see from the street, I think is what always goes in my mind at the same time. And I understand where the petitioner's coming from, but I do like to see a compromise with the two parties.
And I think that's ultimately where we came to on the 42 location, the sides that were, you know, mostly
the brick on the front,
visible. Any other thoughts anybody else has?
Well, in terms of his reference to the provision of options for affordable housing, is requiring something like a fiber cement. You know, is that going to? I mean, what are options for providing more affordable housing?
Cheapening the cost, Marilyn, is what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I got that.
To get the cost down, and Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem is offering a compromise in there, maybe where they can work together and do something that's more decorative to the front and maybe to the side, or at least to the front, and
yet not quite as expensive.
Allow the cost to come down in the unit. You know, and maintenance too. You know, the outside maintenance is
Mayor, let me follow.
Big cost too.
Let me follow up or rephrase kind of on my comment there. So as I think about it, probably if this is the direction of the board sounds good, and staff would definitely probably need a little bit more direction on what I meant by that. And so with the vinyl siding product that would be used, the type of warranty would be important, but I think at the same time, accents on the front of incorporating brick and stone or something like that. I've seen in many neighborhoods throughout our community when vinyl siding's been used, a lot of that's been there, and I think something like that really could help improve the front, kind of like the area you were talking about a minute ago that had brick on the front of it, not just. So anyway, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Harris, I hadn't heard from him. He's familiar with this area for a long time.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a couple of comments. I'm not a builder, don't really know, but what the recommendations are from the planning board. I just looked at a couple of supporting statements based on their recommendation, and maybe Mayor Pro Tem can verify this. What I'm just about to read, and it says that vinyl is less dense and durable than many other home facade products and subject to not holding up as well to heat and cold cycles. It degrades and becomes brittle and less impact resistant over time. And then of course it says higher quality finishes are in the best interest of the public in that they enhance neighborhoods and promote higher quality development and protect the value of existing properties. And that statement jumps out at me in regards to one of the statements of the finish being in the best interest of the public and the neighborhood there. And I'm thinking that part of what our commitment or my commitment is to build good neighborhoods. I know it's a mixed neighborhood it's an older neighborhood, but it's changing as every neighborhood is in Fuquay as far as housing stock, as far as growth is concerned. So that would be my concern if we don't follow the recommendations of the staff and the planning board. Are we falling into selling or promoting a lesser quality product for whoever would be the potential consumer or homeowner there? That would be my concern, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Commissioner Wunsch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was the additional cost that was cited in the comment for hardy plank versus, for example, the vinyl siding about $5,000? Was that the cost that was stated?
That's the cost that was stated by the petitioner.
And so-
We have not done any recent market analysis between square footage cost differential between vinyl siding and cement fiber siding.
And so we're talking about maybe about a 2% increase in the price, because he's saying that the homes would sell for about $215,000. So we're talking about maybe a 2% increase, maybe being financed over 30 years. I would echo and agree with Commissioner Harris. I think that I mean, I always take very seriously what our planning board recommends and what our staff recommends, of course, and I think over time, you know, you want these houses to continue to look good, and I've experienced some of the problems with vinyl siding as opposed to other types of siding, and so I would tend to agree with Commissioner Harris. If there is a compromise that can be found, I would love to look into that, but I would tend to agree with Commissioner Harris that we want to have a product that looks good, and especially in an area as has been stated that has really begun over the years to really look good, you know, and a lot of hard work has been put into it, and we can be very proud of it. Those would be my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Wunsch. Bounce back to our Mayor Pro Tem. Do you feel pretty good about it? And maybe even to Commissioner Gardner.
Did I hear that Commissioner Harris said he is support, and Commissioner Wunsch said they are in support of staff recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Which that's what I understood.
Yes.
Which petitioner has not agreed to that by any means. He said earlier, no, he did not agree to it. So we have two options tonight: approve as submitted or deny as submitted. Correct, Manager?
That's correct.
We
If the
cannot
petitioner,
approve if they go put
if the
X, Y, Z on it.
petitioner is not willing to offer it up as a condition, then the town board can either deny, or if you wish, you could table it to allow staff to have further dialogue and conversation with the petitioner about whether there is some sort of middle ground to this matter. The board it would not be my recommendation to approve it and apply the condition if the petitioner is not willing to voluntarily offer the condition. So the options would be deny, or if the petitioner wishes to raise their hand and offer it up, which I don't know if they are or not. I know in the past he has been willing to offer conditions in a town board meeting. And so if that's something the petitioner is willing to do or interested in doing, then he can certainly raise his hand to do that now. Otherwise, my recommendation would be for the town board to deny the zoning map amendment or table it.
Where in our community would are we going to allow vinyl siding at then?
Well, we do not have a policy on that. I think that's something that if this is going to become a more conversation or dialogue with the development community, then we probably ought to adopt a formal policy. At this point, the town has been, the town management and staff have been consistently recommending it for all. And then the town board has been, either the petitioner has volunteered that up or the town board has been denying those requests. And in most cases, the petitioner offers it up as a voluntary condition. If this is something that the board wishes to discuss in further detail so that we have a stated policy, I think we would need to follow up with some recommendations on that. But right now, management and staff are recommending, based on the justification I mentioned earlier, when redevelopment or infill development occurs, it makes sense, at least from our perspective, that you would redevelop or develop infill into older neighborhoods with a higher quality product than was there before, to enhance value of that neighborhood and that community. And so I'm not sure if that answers your question, but right now we do not have specifically, this is where we would and this is where we wouldn't allow vinyl siding.
I don't believe in blanketly forbidding it throughout the town by any means. I believe that a house, depending on what the full picture of the house is, meaning earlier, as I mentioned, brick and stone and the surrounding houses and some other features there. So I would not be in favor of a policy that forbid it through our entire community. But where the town has been, not policies, but where zoning decisions have been made so far, I don't disagree with those. And I'm fine with staff's recommendation tonight.
Let me ask this question. If you have vinyl siding on a house now and you want to replace your vinyl siding,
You can do that.
you can do that.
That's right. Vinyl siding is allowed in all base zoning districts. We've been addressing infill and redevelopment as conditional zoning.
I got you.
And we have new construction going up in our communities now that are all vinyl siding too. And that's why I bring that up. So there.
We do, and those things came through the pipeline prior to sort of staff rethinking and redeveloping its recommendations to the board about conditional zoning.
And that's why I would not blanketly want across our town to forbid it, but with case-by-case conditions and what else is going to be on the home, other products, features, as I inquired about earlier, would make me be susceptible. But in this case, this is basically a discussion of a 100% vinyl sided house or 100% non-vinyl, not even non-vinyl, cement sided. It's a clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do believe, Mayor, that our town host of the Zoom meeting says that the petitioner has raised their hand to speak.
Okay.
We're not in a public hearing, but because this has as much discussion, you may wish to allow that to occur.
I would be glad to recognize him if he's willing to make some comments. Scott?
Okay, Jason, unmute yourself.
Yes, I am unmuted. I just spoke to the client with whom I'm building the house, and in the spirit of moving forward, and we'd like to go ahead and accept the condition of no vinyl siding, and we will use cement-based siding on this project.
He said it again,
Okay.
Mayor.
He will accept vinyl
No vinyl siding as a condition, and they plan to use cement
boards.
That's what he said.
Cement, Jason, just be clear,
Cement-based.
cement-based siding is what he
Yeah,
said.
not brand
Yeah.
specific. Okay. Mayor, make a motion to approve as recommended staff and a voluntary condition as presented by the petitioner.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Jason, for staying on the line with us and offering that solution for us. Thank you. Okay, we move on to 7D. Zoning map amendment, Malwin Watkins Survey and PA 5507 South Main Street, REZ 2020-03. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item, I'm going to move forward the slide here. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 0.552 acres located at 507 South Main Street from the Office and Institutional O&I zoning district to the Town Center Residential TCR zoning district, and the corresponding land use plan amendment from Downtown DT to Town Center Residential TCR. The subject property totals 0.552 acres and is located in the town's corporate limits. The property is currently used as a single-family residence. However, the current zoning of the property is office and institutional, and that renders single-family residential as a non-conforming use, as defined by the town's land development ordinance. The property owner wishes to install an accessory structure at the subject property, indicated on the attached plot plan in your agenda materials and on the screen in front of you as a proposed garage. The current non-conforming use prohibits installation of an accessory structure. The requested zoning district will both render the existing single-family residential home as permitted and will permit the installation of an accessory structure. The zoning map amendment petition requests approval of the Town Center Residential TCR zoning district. The TCR zoning district requires submittal of a master plan. However, proposed developments totaling 4 or fewer lots are permitted to submit a plot plan in lieu of the required master plan. This zoning map amendment requests 1 lot, and as such, a plot plan has been submitted. The plot plan includes a notes section that details site-specific provisions for development of the subject property as it relates to design elements and community character. And the note is as follows, that siding on the front of the garage will be hardy plank. Surrounding properties mainly consist of residential properties that make up the older neighborhoods that surround the downtown, and the Fuquay Mineral Spring Park is located to the northwest of the subject property. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the downtown classification at the subject property. Although the requested zoning district is not consistent with the 2035 Land Use Plan classification, the petitioner has included a land use plan amendment request along with the zoning map petition. Public water and sewer utilities currently serve the subject property. The subject property is located on the town and has access to South Main Street, which is classified as a 60-foot right-of-way by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan. A neighborhood meeting was held by the petitioner on October 16th, and that meeting report was included in your agenda materials. The petitioner is requesting an amendment to the 2035 Land Use Plan that classifies the subject property as TCR Town Center Residential, which is better suited to accommodate the proposed use of a single-family residence within the Town Center Residential Zoning District. This amendment also supports the Land Use Plan's recommendation LU4, encouraging infill development and redevelopment inside the town limits, which incentivizes infill development and redevelopment projects inside the town limits as a way to reinvest in the existing downtown and neighborhoods. As such, the requested land use plan amendment is consistent with the 2035 land use plan and its vision. The land use plan amendment, if approved, would allow for the site to be developed in a more consistent and appropriate manner as it relates to the proposed use and the surrounding area. Management and staff recommend approval of the proposed zoning map amendment and accompanying land use plan amendment. It's reasonable and in the best interest of the public for a number of reasons. First, although the requested zoning map amendment is not consistent with our land use plan designation of downtown, the requested land use plan amendment to designate the property as Town Center Residential would allow for the existing residential use to continue without furthering the nonconformity. Second, the requested zoning district supports infill development and reinvestment in downtown neighborhoods per our land use plan recommendations. Third, the requested zoning district is complementary to residential and institutional uses in the general vicinity. And finally, the plot plan specifies specifics identified by the petitioner, promote community character, and provide compatibility to the surrounding neighborhood. This case was originally scheduled to be heard at the March 16th Planning Board meeting, but due to social distancing protocols enacted by the town, the meeting was canceled and all cases were delayed until the next available meeting. This case was re-advertised in accordance with North Carolina general statutes. At the May 18th regular meeting of the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval to this board, finding it reasonable in the best interest of the public for those reasons identified by staff. The action recommended to you this evening is to conduct a public hearing, followed by the motion to approve REZ 2020-03, a zoning map amendment at 507 South Main Street, from the Office and Institutional Zoning District to the Town Center Residential Zoning District, and the corresponding land use plan amendment from Downtown DT to Town Center Residential TCR. The proposed amendment with the corresponding land use plan amendment is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan and reasonable and in the best interest of the public for those reasons identified by management and staff. I'm happy to answer any questions that the town board has either before or after the public hearing, and I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, we'll move on to the public hearing. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment? Scott?
Yes, sir. We have one hand raised. Phone number ending in 6587. You may speak.
6587, come to us.
Good evening, Mayor. It's Wayne Malden with Malden White Surveying, 1301 Broad Street here in Fuquay.
Good to hear from you,
We put
Wayne.
this petition together tonight. Hello?
Yes, sir. Good to hear from you.
Can you? You too, sir. Basically, what's going on here is Mr. Lemon has lived in this house approximately 10 years now. I think in part of the rezoning of the town, it got changed to O&I. If I remember when I was a kid, which was 45, 50 years ago, it was always been a residence, but the doctor had his office in there also.
Was this
And I
Dr.
think that's
Dr.
probably why
Huff?
it was changed.
Dr. Huff?
Dr. Huff, yes, sir.
Yeah, Jewel Huff. She had a
Yes, sir.
she had a realty business in there too.
Hoff.
Yes, sir. Did
Go ahead.
Anyway, that's how we ended up where we're at here tonight. Mr. Lemon, has, like I said, been living there approximately 10 years now, and he wants to put a garage up back in the back of the house. And I think he went down and talked to staff, and that's when he found out the accessory use was not allowed in that zoning. So that's why we have this rezoning before you here tonight. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to find out.
I think we're good. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor? Scott?
I do not see any other hands.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition of this zoning map amendment?
I do not see any hands, Mayor.
Thank you, Scott. The hearing is now closed. Any discussion by the board on this particular project? And if not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mayor, I move that we approve REC 2020-03, a zoning map amendment at 507 South Main Street from the Office and Institutional Zoning District to the Town Center Residential, as presented and recommended.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We move to 7E, zoning map amendment, Town of Fuquay-Varina, 4621 0 and 0 Shady Greens Drive, 5211 0 and 0 Johnson Pond Road, 5532 0 and 0 Bushy Meadows Drive, and 4501 Hilltop Needmore Road, REZ 2020-04. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 142.8 acres located at 4621 0 and 0 Shady Greens Drive, 5211 0 and 0 Johnson Pond Road, 5532 0 and 0 Brushy Meadows Drive, and 4501 Hilltop Needmore Road, from the residential agricultural RA zoning district to the office and institutional conditional zoning district, O&I CZD, and the corresponding land use plan amendment from small lot residential SLR to civic and institutional CIV. The subject properties located in the town's ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, are the site of the Hilltop Needmore Town Park and Preserve. The zoning map amendment petition requests approval of the office and institutional conditional zoning district, O&I CZD. Surrounding properties are primarily residential, but additional recreational, as the subject properties were formerly the Crooked Creek Golf Course. A lot owned by Wake County Board of Education sits in the center of the subject properties. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the small lot residential classification at the subject properties. Although the requested zoning district is not consistent with the 2035 land use plan classification, the town has included a land use plan amendment along with the zoning map petition. The town and/or other development partners will be extending water and sewer utilities with future development of the subject properties. The subject properties are located along Hilltop Needmore Road and have access to the following local streets throughout the Crooked Creek neighborhood. They include Brushy Meadows Drive, Shady Greens Drive, Johnson Pond Road, Gomer Lane, Helen Drive, and Crooked Bluff Lane. All of these streets, with the exception of Hilltop Needmore Road, are classified as local streets by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan. Hilltop Needmore Road is classified as a 110-foot right-of-way by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan. This street is identified as a 4-lane divided median road with side paths. It's currently a 2-lane road. The petitioner held a neighborhood meeting on April 22nd. As the town is the petitioner, planning staff and management conducted the neighborhood meeting, and we can answer any questions related to the report. The report was included in your agenda materials. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the small lot residential classification at the subject properties. However, the town is requesting a land use plan amendment to the civic and institutional classification, CIV, which is better suited to accommodate the proposed use of a town park and preserve, as well as any future public use facilities. This amendment also supports the land use plan's recommendation of NE1, create an interconnected network of green spaces, which encourages the forming of a quote-unquote big picture green print, and invest in growing and committing land to green spaces for public enjoyment. Additionally, this amendment supports PR1 in our land use plan vision, which is to build parks and preserve open space for those same reasons. As such, the requested land use plan amendment is consistent with the 2035 land use plan and its vision. The land use plan amendment, if approved, would allow for the site to be developed in a more consistent and appropriate manner as it relates to the proposed use and surrounding area. Management and staff are recommending approval of the proposed zoning map amendment and corresponding land use plan amendment. Both are consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan vision and reasonable in the best interest of the public for the following reasons. Again, although the requested zoning map amendment is not consistent with the 2035 land use plan classification of small lot residential, the petitioner, the town, has opted to request a change of the land use plan to civic and institutional, which would allow for continued growth of town parks and appropriate proposed public uses at the location. Second, the requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan's recommendation of creating an interconnected network of green spaces and building parks and maintaining open space. And third, the requested zoning map amendment would better conform to the surrounding uses and provide for the ability to better develop the property for public use. At the May 18th regular meeting of the Planning Board unanimously voted to recommend approval, finding it reasonable in the best interest of the public for those reasons identified by staff. The recommendation this evening is to conduct a public hearing, followed by a motion to approve REZ 2020-04, a zoning map amendment at the addresses previously mentioned on record, from the residential agricultural RA zoning district to the office and institutional conditional zoning district, and the corresponding land use plan amendment from small lot residential to civic and institutional. The proposed zoning map amendment and corresponding land use plan amendment is consistent with the 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan vision, and both are reasonable and in the best interest of the public for the reasons identified by management and staff. Happy to answer any questions that the board might have, either before or after the public hearing, and I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, we'll move on into the public hearing. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment?
Mayor, we have one hand raised, Catherine A. and Mark P.
Catherine, go right ahead.
Please unmute yourself.
Catherine.
Catherine Tynan, 552 for Johnson Pond Road. So a couple of questions about this. Number one, is there any detailed plans? Obviously, we know that there's an elementary school planned, and you said parks are planned, but what is rezoning it? Is there options once it's rezoned to do other things? And just trying to figure out exactly how much will be park and how much will be elementary school. The second part of the question is when you said that it would expand Johnson Pond to a 4-lane highway, are you talking above Hilltop Meadmore, below Hilltop Meadmore, or both of them? I know that there is, looking at the parcel, there is actually a piece of what appears to have originally been a house or land that would have been a house on Hilltop Meadmore south, I'm sorry, Johnson Pond, south of Hilltop Meadmore. Looks like it was originally residential, and concerns that would that be an entrance? Would that be just not understanding exactly what the plans are for this 143 acres, which is obviously a very large amount of land.
Adam, you want to address, I mean, we're really going from county zoning to town zoning, but I'll let Adam address this with you.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
the 140 or so acres, 142.8 acres is solely town property, and that is presently our Hilltop Meadmore Town Park and Preserve. That has nothing to do with the school property. That's a separate parcel owned by a separate owner, the Wake County Board of Education, and that will be developed as an elementary school at a later date. That's on about 21 or 22 acres. I don't know exactly the acreage in front, but when you asked about the differential between what is town property and what is school property, all 142.8 acres that we're speaking about in this zoning map amendment are town non-school related property. Now, the piece that you're speaking of off of Johnson Pond Road, this was a part of the original property conveyance from Wake County to the town. It was not a residential property, although looking at the map on your screen, you might I could see how it would be viewed or potentially misunderstood as a residential parcel. It was actually just a strip of right-of-way that connects to Johnson Pond Road. The previous owner at one point in time perhaps had plans to have a driveway connection or some sort of road connection into the property, and so they secured that as a part of the total acreage of the property that they conveyed to Wake County and that Wake County eventually conveyed to us. Now, as far as the plan for this property, there is no master plan that has been done on this property yet. That will be done I believe in the fiscal year 23 or 24 in our 5-year plan. I don't recall exactly. I think it's 23, but it could be 24. It's 2 or 3 years out. And at that time, the town will engage the public or public input and comments as it relates to how this property should be developed as a park in the future or public use in the future. The town does have a deed restriction on this property as a part of the conveyance of this total 142.8 acres to the town from Wake County. When we went through that process, we agreed to a deed restriction that this property would only be used as a public park or for a public facility, a public use facility. And we define that as potentially being a community center, for example, a senior center, for example, even a fire station, or a police substation. Now, none of that is planned at the moment. We do not have a plan for any of that. We'll master plan it, with the exception of, in our 5-year plan, there are some plans in place for a community center and senior center to be developed on a portion of this 142.8 acres. The rest of it, I would expect, would either be developed in some traditional form of park land or preserve land for environmental and natural park uses. And in a more traditional way, it could include some play fields, whether they're soccer fields, multi-purpose fields, ball fields. All of that remains to be seen, though. That'll go through a very public process, a very public master planning process, where we will engage the community to give input on how that will be done. Matter of fact, it is fiscal year 22 that the master plan is put in. So we're really about a year and a half away from the master planning process. I hope that answers all of their questions. I think, oh no, Hilltop Needmore Road. So there was a question about 4-lane divided median road. That was in reference to Hilltop Needmore Road, not Johnson Pond Road. That's where the majority of road frontage exists on this property. If you are able to see the map on the screen to above me, you'll be able to see that there is a lot of road frontage that goes along Hilltop Needmore Road. Our community transportation plan calls for Hilltop Needmore Road to be a 4-lane divided median road with side paths. And in the future, when this property is developed either by the town and or in conjunction with the new elementary school, those road improvements would be made at that time. I think, Mayor, I've hit on all of their questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Adam. Anybody else, Scott?
No, sir.
Okay.
And Mayor, on behalf of the town, and since we are the petitioner and this is still a public hearing, we are, the town staff and management is recommending this, and we do speak in favor of this zoning map amendment.
Absolutely. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition of this zoning map amendment? Anybody, Scott?
I see no hands raised, Mayor.
No?
No, sir.
Okay. The hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion by the board? And if not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mayor, make a motion to approve as recommended by staff.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we move to, y'all help me here, is item 7F.
Yes, sir.
Is that it? Yep. Okay. Voluntary annexation petition, Hilltop Needmore Park and Preserve, located at 4621 0 and 0 Shady Green Drive, 5211 0 and 0 Johnson Pond Road, 5532 0 and 0 Bushy Meadows Drive, and 4501 Hilltop Needmore Road, ANX 2020-04. More information to be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider an annexation ordinance extending the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina following receipt of a petition for voluntary annexation of property owned by the town of Fuquay-Varina, the Hilltop Needmore Town Park and Preserve, containing a total of approximately 148.027 acres. The property is non-contiguous to the town's corporate limits. Water and sewer is available to serve the property. During the May 19th, 2020 meeting, the town board instructed the town clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the applicant's petition for voluntary annexation, and the town clerk certified at that time that the petition was sufficient and meets the requirements prescribed by North Carolina general statutes. Present value of the property is $4,891,891. The recommendation this evening is to conduct a public hearing, followed by a motion to adopt the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina to include property owned by the town of Fuquay-Varina, the Hilltop Needmore Town Park and Preserve, annexation petition ANX 2020-04 as presented and recommended. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have, either before or after the public hearing, and I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, the hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this voluntary annexation petition?
We have no hands raised.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this voluntary annexation petition?
Again, we have no hands raised.
Thank you, Scott. The hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion by the board, and if not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we adopt the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina to include the property owned by the town of Fuquay-Varina, Hilltop Needmore Town Park and Preserve, as presented and recommended.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move to 7G, zoning map amendment. Glenda Toffee and Glenda S. Toffee and Associates, 4551 Hilltop Needmore Road, REZ 2020-05. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a requested zoning map amendment for a total of 21 acres located at 4551 Hilltop Needmore Road from the Residential Agricultural RA zoning district to the Office and Institutional Conditional Zoning District O&I CZD, and the corresponding land use plan amendment from Civic and Institutional CIV, Small Lot Residential SLR, and Open Space OS to Civic and Institutional CIV. The subject properties located in the town's ETJ are located in the town's ETJ and are the site of the former Crooked Creek Golf Course. The zoning map amendment petition requests approval of the O&I Office and Institutional Zoning District, Conditional Zoning District. Surrounding properties are primarily residential, but additionally recreational, as a large portion of the subject property is bordered by the Hilltop Needmore Town Park and Preserve. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the small lot residential, civic and institutional, and open space classifications at the subject property. And although the requested zoning district is not consistent with the 2035 Land Use Plan classifications, the petitioner has included a land use plan amendment along with the zoning map amendment. The town and or its partners will be extending water and sewer utilities with future development of the subject property, and that contemplates the school system as well. The subject property is located along Hilltop Needmore Road and has additional access to Brushy Meadows Drive. Brushy Meadows Drive is classified as a local street by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan. Hilltop Needmore Road is classified as a 110-foot right-of-way by the town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan. This street is identified as a 4-lane median divided road with side paths, and it's currently a 2-lane road. The petitioner held a neighborhood meeting on April 22nd. This meeting was held jointly with the town, and as such, the town planning staff and management conducted the neighborhood meeting along with the petitioner and can answer questions related to the report, and the report was provided to you in your agenda materials. The 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan calls for the small lot residential, civic and institutional, and open space classifications at the properties. However, the petitioner is requesting a land use plan amendment to civic and institutional across the entire property. This requested amendment is justified and reasonable for a number of reasons. First, the 2035 Land Use Plan describes civic and institutional as land developed to support building or complex of buildings that serve a public purpose. Second, the recommendation of CF3 is safeguarding our access to quality education, which underscores the importance of ensuring the future of quality education in the area. Recommendation PR1 of our land use plan calls for building parks and maintaining open spaces, that also calls for parks to have distinctive design elements to create spaces for all members of the community to enjoy. And finally, the civic and institutional classification better conforms to the surrounding land uses while still maintaining the intent and use of the existing public space and land, and provides a reasonable and acceptable transition to the school and park area from the adjacent residential uses. Management and staff are recommending approval of the proposed zoning map amendment and the corresponding land use plan amendment. Both of them are consistent with our 2035 Community Land Use Plan vision and reasonable and in the best interest of the public for a number of reasons. Again, although the requested zoning map amendment is not consistent with our land use plan classification of small lot residential and open space, the petitioner has opted to request a change to the land use plan to civic and institutional, which would allow the implementation of the Wake County Board of Education's master plan. Second, the requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the 2035 land use plan's recommendations of safeguarding our access to quality education and building parks and maintaining open space. And finally, the requested zoning map amendment would better conform to the surrounding uses and provide a reasonable transition to subject properties that are adjacent and residential. At the May 18th regular meeting of the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval, finding it reasonable and in the best interest of the public for those reasons I've just identified. The action recommended to you this evening is to conduct a public hearing followed by a motion to approve REZ 2020-05, a zoning map amendment at 4551 Hilltop Needmore Road from the Residential Agricultural RA zoning district to the Office and Institutional ONI CZD conditional zoning district, and the corresponding land use plan amendment from civic and institutional, small lot residential, and open space, all to civic and institutional. The proposed zoning map amendment with the corresponding land use plan amendment is consistent with our 2035 Community Vision Land Use Plan vision and are both reasonable in the best interest of the public for those reasons I've identified this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board has, either before or after the public hearing, and I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this zoning map amendment?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Glenda Top, please unmute yourself.
Glenda?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you come right ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and members of the board, my name is Glenda Top. I'm at 3149 Garden Lake Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina, and I am a planning consultant speaking tonight on behalf of the property owner, the Wake County Board of Education. First, I would like to thank staff for working with us through this change of how we do public hearings and how we meet virtually. As you all were discussing about the budget, it's definitely different than what we're used to. So again, you all have done an excellent job. Want to just add that we are in support of the proposed rezoning. We feel that it is an excellent location, particularly given its proximity adjacent to the future park in Fuquay. It meets the criteria and goals and visions of the town's long-range plan, and we ask for the board's support. I would also like to mention there are 2 members from the Wake County school system who are also present tonight. If you have more specific questions about the school, they are happy to answer those questions also. Thank you very much.
I think we're pretty good about it, but we'd love to hear from anybody. Scott, you have anybody who got their hand raised?
No, sir.
Okay. So they're in favor. Anybody, you got?
We just did.
Pardon?
Yeah, we just had one more hand raised.
Okay, come on to me.
Okay. Betty Parker, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I had not planned to speak, but that was such a kind invitation. I just wanted to echo Glenda's comments. We thank you so much. This is a very exciting project, and we're looking forward to continued collaboration with the town staff and looking at a master plan for a senior center and community center together with an elementary school. It's the latest in a number of projects where we have enjoyed an excellent relationship with the town, and just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak and convey that.
Thank you, Betty. You've always been a great representative of the school board, and we appreciate your help here in the Fuquay-Varina area. We're very excited about this project as well. Anybody else wish to speak? It is, Scott?
No more hands.
Okay. Anybody want to speak in opposition of the zoning map amendment? Nothing there?
No, sir.
Okay. The hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion by our board? And if not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve REZ 2020-05 as presented and recommended.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Adam. We go to 7H, Voluntary Annexation Petition, Hilltop Needmore Road Elementary School. E44, 4551 Hilltop Needmore Road, ANX 2020-05. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider the adoption of an annexation ordinance for Hilltop Needmore Road Elementary School E44 property, extending the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina following a receipt of a Petition for voluntary annexation of property owned by the Wake County Board of Education, Wake County Public School System, located at 4551 Hilltop Needmore Road, containing a total of approximately 21.929 acres. Property is non-contiguous to the town's corporate limits. Water and sewer is available to the property. At the May 19th meeting of the town board instructed the town clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the applicant's petition, and the town clerk certified that the petition was sufficient and meets the requirements prescribed by North Carolina general statutes. Present total value of the property is $924,000. The recommendation this evening is to first conduct a public hearing, followed by a motion to adopt an annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina to include property owned by the Wake County Board of Education, Wake County Public School System, 4551 Hilltop Needmore Road, Annexation Petition ANX 2020-05, as presented and recommended. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has, either before or after the public hearing, and I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this voluntary annexation petition?
No hands, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the voluntary annexation petition?
Again, no hands.
The hearing is now closed. Any discussion by the board? And if not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Fuquay-Varina to include property owned by Wake County Board of Education, Wake County Public School System, 4551 Hilltop Needmore Road, ANX 2025, as presented and recommended.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to 7I, public hearings. Town Code Amendment, Town of Fuquay-Varina Land Development Ordinance, LDO Amendment Number 11, CTA 2020-03. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a proposed text amendment to the Town Code of Ordinances, Part 9, Land Development Ordinance, Amendment Number 11, that addresses several areas for improvement. The Land Development Ordinance, since its adoption in 2016, has been both viewed by staff and the community, and we've gained significant experience with this document and a better understanding of its intent and proper function. As a result, this amendment seeks to harness that experience in the form of clarifications and technical corrections to the Land Development Ordinance's language. The proposed changes are as follows, and there's several of these, and so just bear with me as I review them with the board and for the public's benefit. Section 1, Article B, the language on maintenance of non-residential structures has been changed to condense the section on the maintenance of methods and ingress and egress, and now prohibits the use of boarding as a means of repair. The term evidence of vacancy has also been added as a description of the state a building may be in that would give it the appearance of being vacant. This evidence has been added to the Land Development Ordinance and will be described in further detail later in this report. Additionally, in this section, a grammatical cleanup of this section has also occurred. In Section 2, Article D, the term townhome has been replaced with the term townhouse in this section for continuity of terminology throughout the document. In all other instances throughout the Land Development Ordinance, the term townhouse is used in reference to townhome style development. In Section 3, Article F, references to Section 9-1902 have been removed from this section and throughout the rest of the Land Development Ordinance due to its combination with Section 9-1901. This change is described further in detail later in my report. Language prohibiting the locating of mobile restaurants for food trucks along NC 42, NC Highway 55, US Highway 401, and any portion of Judd Parkway has been added to this section in an effort to prevent traffic being impeded along the town's major thoroughfares. Language prohibiting mobile restaurants from locating in parking spaces in private parking lots has been removed to encourage mobile restaurants to locate off of a public road. An exception has been added to allow mobile restaurants in residential zoning districts on commonly owned property. This is in response to a significant amount of interest from the public to allow food trucks in neighborhoods and at residential community functions like HOA functions. Language has been added to the section regarding mixed-use development that mixing of uses vertically is strongly encouraged, with the first floor being generally reserved for non-residential uses and the upper floors being for residential uses. This again applies in mixed-use development areas. Language has been added to clarify that the 1,500-foot separation requirement between multifamily uses does not include vertical mixed-use buildings, where the first floor is non-residential and all upper floors are residential. The section regarding non-through streets and cul-de-sacs has been amended to correct the word, quote, non-for to non-through, grammatical error. Language regarding the allowable number of accessory uses per zoning lot has been amended for both the corporate limits and the ETJ. The allowable number of accessory structures in the corporate limits is now dependent on the size of the zoning lot, and the restriction on number of accessory structures allowed in the ETJ has been removed altogether. Section 4, Article J, the term street lights in the title of this section has been corrected to read street lights, one word, not two words. Language in this section has been amended to remove the reference to Part 4, Chapter 1, Article A, Section 4-1002, 4, as this does not reference a section in our LDO and does not specify which document it makes reference to, leading to user confusion. Reference made to the town's standard specifications and construction details is sufficient. Section 5, Article L, language pertaining to the forfeiture of non-compliant signs has been moved to the front of the section for visibility and ease of use. The term off-premise has been corrected to off-premises throughout the section. Language pertaining to how many temporary off-premises signs may be permitted at one time has been changed from 4 to 8 in an effort to allow businesses more flexibility in the hope that compliance is improved. A typographical error has been corrected in this section that pertains to signs on vehicles, hereby removing a double negative. The location requirements of yard signs has been clarified to state that yard signs shall only be allowed on private property with permission of the property owner and are not intended to replace permanent signage. Section 6, Article N, the table parking bay dimensional standards has been amended to correct and clarify the requirements for angled parking. A table and figure has been added to further outline the dimensions expected for angled parking modules. Section 7, Article O, language in this section has been amended to correct a reference to another section of the LDO which was previously incorrectly titled, and a typographical error has been made to this section to remove an extra word. In Section 8, Article Q, language in this section has been amended to define additional types of administrative changes that are allowable without requiring the petitioner to seek board approval. This proposed change will allow staff to streamline the process from minor changes to preliminary major subdivision plans that would otherwise be required to go back before the Planning Board and the Board of Commissioners for consideration. And this is consistent with many of our peers. Section 9, Article S. Article S, which contains the definition of terms used throughout the Land Development Ordinance, currently has two sections of definitions, 1901 and 1902. I referenced this earlier. Section 1901 is entitled General Definitions, and Section 1902 is entitled Use Classifications. This separation of sections has proven to be unwieldy and causes user confusion. It is often the case that a user searches Section 1901 for a term and they don't find it, and they assume it is undefined by the LDO, not realizing that there is a separate section for definitions. Therefore, these sections are proposed to be combined to create one thorough definition section in order to promote ease of use. A general grammatical and spelling error cleanup has also been performed on the entirety of this article, and the term evidence of vacancy has been added and defined. In Section 10, Appendix B, language has been added to the form-based street section to indicate that 6 inches of curb should be included in the calculation of the assembly width. Previously, the inclusion of curb width was not provided for in the form-based section, leading to confusion. The form-based pre-approved assemblies have undergone a major overhaul and cleanup. Prior to this amendment, the pre-approved assemblies were not user-friendly and often incorrect, leading to modification in almost every application. This amendment hopes to clean up those details and provide for ease of use. Management and staff are recommending approval of the proposed Town Code Amendment. It's reasonable and in the best interest of the public as it improves upon the Land Development Ordinance intent to modernize, provide sustainability, and allow for ease of use and enforcement, especially with regard to the town's current standards. Again, I like to stress clarifications and ease of use. That's primarily what this amendment is for. At the May 18th regular meeting, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval to the Town Board, finding it reasonable and in the best interest of the public for those reasons I've just identified. The recommendation to you this evening is to conduct a public hearing, followed by a motion to approve CTA 2020-03 Amendment Number 11, an amendment to the Town Code of Ordinances Part 9 Land Development Ordinance, as presented and recommended by Town Management and staff. The text amendment approves upon the Land Development Ordinance and is reasonable in the best interest of the public for those reasons I've identified this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions before or after the public hearing. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town, and that concludes my presentation, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor stepped out for a moment to the restroom, so it's an exciting time. First virtual meeting ever that
You're leading here?
that I'm leading. So this will go down into the records and official minutes tonight. Thank you, Mayor or Manager, for those words right there. I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing. Scott, do you have anybody to speak to in regards to this?
No, sir.
Yeah, anyone that wants to speak against it?
No, sir.
Anybody else there in the audience listening that wants to speak, push the button on your phone and we'll let you speak. Okay.
No hands.
I'm now closing the public hearing. What's the action by the board? Are any questions for staff?
No, I think it's just been cleaned up.
Like, Commissioner Harris?
I was just saying, I just understand that it's just cleaning the language up. That's it. And I'd like to move that we approve CTA 2003 Amendment Number 11, an amendment to the Town Code of Ordinances Part 9 Land Development Ordinance as presented and recommended by Town Management and staff.
Second.
We got a motion. We have a second. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome back, Mayor.
Okie dokie. We'll move right on to the next item, which is 7J, I believe. Community Transportation Plan Amendment, Town of Fuquay-Varina, 42 NC 42 Highway Extension, CTA 2020-04. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a proposed amendment to the Community Transportation Plan that addresses an area for improvement. The Community Transportation Plan is the adopted ordinance by which transportation needs for all citizens are identified. The CTP seeks to establish the desired vision of the community and identifies the steps to achieving it. The Fuquay-Varina 2035 Community Transportation Plan is a living document meant to be revisited and amended as necessary as the community moves forward in its growth. The town is proposing an amendment of a portion of NC Highway 42 from South NC 55 Highway at 5 points to the junction of the future realignment, a length of roughly 2/3 of a mile. The proposal is in response to the U-5751 project the North Carolina Department of Transportation is currently developing that realigns this section of NC Highway 42. After this project is complete and programmed for construction in 2024, 4 lanes would no longer be needed for this segment. Any turn lane movements would be dictated by a transportation impact analysis that would result in specific proposed specifics as it is proposed to development or as required by NCDOT. The town proposes to downgrade this cross-section. So if you look at the map on your screen, and now you look at the map on your screen, we propose to downgrade the cross-section of this portion of NC Highway 42 from a 4-lane median divided road with side paths to its current designation as a 2-lane road with sidewalk or side path. This would require any future development to dedicate right-of-way, install curb and gutter, and install either a sidewalk and or a side path at an appropriate location. Management and staff recommend approval of CTA 2019-04, a proposed amendment to the 2035 Community Transportation Plan. It is reasonable and in the best interest of the public as it improves upon the 2035 Transportation Plan's intent for the future of transportation and growth in the town. At the May 18th regular meeting, the Planning Board unanimously voted to recommend approval, finding it reasonable in the best interest of the public for those reasons I've identified. The action recommended to you this evening is to conduct your final public hearing of the night, followed by a motion to approve CTA 2020-04, an amendment to the Community Transportation Plan as presented and recommended by town staff. The amendment improves upon the Community Transportation Plan and is reasonable and in the best interest of the public for those reasons I've identified this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has either before or after the public hearing. I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. Thank you, Mayor.
Did the planning board have any eyes on this?
They did, and the planning board unanimously recommended to approve.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you,
Thank you.
Adam. The hearing is now open. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the Community Transportation Plan amendment?
No hands are raised, Mayor.
Thank you, Scott. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the Community Transportation Plan amendment?
No hands are raised.
The hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion by the board? And if not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mayor Byrne, I make a motion that we approve CTA 2020-04, an amendment to the Community Transportation Plan as presented and recommended by town staff.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move to item 8. What is the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I would motion that we approve items 8A, B, C, D, and E of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, and that's all of them, isn't it, Jason?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. You got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we move on to item 9A, and we're going to move past that one. We don't need it. 10A, Administrative Reports, Preliminary Subdivision Plat Amendment, Persimmon Woods, Amendment Number 1, Sub PA 2020-02. More information be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you. While the name of this subdivision is quite unique, some of you might remember playing with persimmon woods on the golf course back in the day.
I did. I did. I was very, very proud to have some persimmon woods.
Hopefully none of you still carry them in your bag. The purpose of this agenda item...
It might be dating us, Bill.
I know.
The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a preliminary subdivision plat amendment submitted by Curry Engineering named Persimmon Woods, located at 1908 West Academy Street. The submitted preliminary subdivision, Persimmon Woods, is on 8.62 acres in the Residential Agricultural Conditional Zoning District, RACZD, with conditions as follow. Vinyl siding is not permitted, however, vinyl windows, decorative elements, and trim are permitted. Garage doors shall have either windows, decorative details, or carriage-style adornments. All residences shall have a crawl space or have a raised foundation, which at minimum rises at least 20 inches from the average grade across the front of the house to the finished floor level at the front door, And 4, any side and or rear elevations of units that can be seen from the right-of-way shall have trim around the windows. The preliminary subdivision plat proposes 12 residential lots meeting the standards for conventional subdivision development. The minimum lot size permitted is 20,000 square feet, and the maximum and the minimum provided, is 21,651 square feet. The average lot size is 27,793 square feet. The plan includes the installation of a 10-foot wide side path and 20 feet of right-of-way dedication along West Academy Street, NC Highway 42. The subdivision plan proposes a stub street to the north. Public water is available to serve the subject property and will be installed by the developer. Public sewer is not available at this time, so each lot will be served by an individual septic system. The proposed preliminary subdivision plat amendment meets all town requirements, and as such, staff and management are recommending approval. The preliminary plat has been amended to modify the total acreage, the number of lots, and the internal street network, decreasing the project acreage from 11.83 acres to 8.62 acres, the number of lots from 16 to 12, and the removal of the proposed stub street to the west. The decrease of the project acreage and the number of lots has resulted in the developer's decision to reduce the scale of the project from its originally approved preliminary plat in 2018. What you have on your screens in front of you is the original preliminary approved plat in 2018. This now is the proposed plat amendment, which does meet our standards. At the May 18th, 2020 regular meeting, the planning board found the subdivision plat consistent with the town's requirements and voted unanimously to recommend approval. The recommendation to you this evening is to approve Persimmon Woods preliminary subdivision plat amendment SUBPA 2020-02 as presented and recommended. There is an extra word recommend in the motion that should not be there. It is to approve the Persimmon Woods preliminary subdivision plat amendment SUBPA 2020-02 as presented and recommended. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
I think we're good. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the Persimmon Woods preliminary subdivision plat amendment SUBPA 2020-02 as presented and recommended.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move to 10B, preliminary subdivision plat, Walmart outparcel, SUB PR 2020-06. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider a preliminary subdivision plat submitted by Curry Engineering named the Walmart Outparcel Subdivision located at 1051 East Broad Street. The submitted preliminary subdivision, Walmart Outparcel Subdivision, is on 1.14 acres in the general commercial district. The preliminary subdivision plat proposes one non-residential lot meeting the standards for a conventional subdivision in a non-residential district. The parent tract is 19.87 acres, or 865,537 square feet, and the proposed subdivided out parcel is 1.14 acres on 49,658 square feet. The subdivision will require the extension of public sanitary sewer to serve the lot. The parcel fronts East Broad Street, but vehicular access to the project area is provided via the connections to the current Walmart parking lot and the proposed cross-access connection to the parcel immediately to the west. The town's 2035 Community Transportation Plan designates East Broad Street as an ultimate 70-foot right-of-way, which is the current right-of-way width of this section of East Broad Street. Public water and sewer are available to serve the subject properties and will be installed by the developer. The proposed preliminary subdivision plat meets all town requirements, and as such, staff and management are recommending approval. At the May 18th regular meeting, the planning board found the subdivision plat consistent with the town requirements and voted unanimously to recommend approval subject to obtaining an administrative adjustment to reduce the required parking by 10%. Since the planning board meeting, an administrative adjustment to reduce the number of parking spaces in the existing shopping center by 10% was submitted and approved on May 19th. of this year. The motion is for you to approve the Walmart outparcel preliminary subdivision plat SUB PR 2020-06 located at 1051 East Broad Street as presented and recommended. Again, for some reason in the recommended motion, there's an added word recommended in there. It is to approve the Walmart outparcel preliminary subdivision plat SUB PR 2020-06 located at 1051 East Broad Street as presented and recommended. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board has. I'm submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents in the official record of the town.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion then. That's what you're looking for, isn't it?
Do you have any, Mayor, two quick questions. Has anyone's, what's planned to go there?
No, not yet.
Nothing? It's just parking lot now, they can bulldoze it out and get it ready, site ready?
I believe
something?
they have a tenant.
Who?
But they have not disclosed it this time.
I mean, I'm fine to prove it, I'm just curious.
They haven't disclosed it this time. We've inquired and don't have an answer yet this time.
Yeah, they don't have to give us an answer.
No, that's right, and my approval is not subject to it, I was curious for that there, so, okay. Mayor, motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We go to 10C, Contract Award, Project Ordinance and Budget Amendment, South Lakes Greenway Improvements, BA 2020-25, $50,000. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Town Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. Catch up real quick here. Okay. The purpose of this agenda item is to consider award of the South Lakes Greenway Trail Improvements Project to Moffett Pipe, approval of Budget Amendment BA 2020-25, and the establishment of a project ordinance. The South Lakes Greenway is located in the South Lakes subdivision and stretches from NC 55 to the dam in the subdivision. Repairs to the South Lakes Greenway Trail will consist of removing and replacing rotted decking and joists. These rotted components have led to structural failings along several sections of the boardwalk, and there appear to be locations where the piling was not adequately built and is deteriorating or sinking in the wetlands. When all of the rotted decking and joists have been removed, several piles will need to be evaluated for potential replacement. Once any identified failing or deficient piles have been replaced, the joists and the decking will be rebuilt. South Lakes Greenway was constructed by the developer of South Lakes and was dedicated to the town for public use and maintenance. At the time the Greenway was built, the town did not yet have Greenway design and construction standards with the town's standard specification and construction details. The town's Greenway standards were adopted in 2017 in conjunction with adoption of the 2035 Community Transportation Plan. And this project will bring the South Lakes Greenway up to this standard consistent with the currently under construction Park Depot Greenway Trail. A budget amendment in the amount of $50,000 is needed to award the project. Town staff has identified a surplus of revenue in recreation unit fees in the current fiscal year and recommends appropriating this overage to support the cost of improvements to the South Lakes Greenway Trail. Currently, the town of Fuquay-Varina has received $1,746,750 in fiscal year 20 in recreation unit fees through May 20th of this year, May 22nd of this year. This is 187% higher than budgeted projections for the entire fiscal year. The recommendation to you this evening by motion is to approve Budget Amendment BA 2020-2025 in the amount of $50,000, establish a project ordinance, and authorize me as town manager to enter into a contract for the South Lakes Greenway Trail improvements as presented and recommended, subject to town attorney review as to form. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have, and I am submitting the agenda abstract and supporting documents into the official record of the town. Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. When was that first built?
I believe it was in the the early part of 2000s, in the early 2000s.
Mid-2000s or early
it was
2000s.
before the
Been
Great-
there, been a pretty good
It
while.
was before the Great Recession, I know
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty good while ago.
I'm not sure
Okay.
treated wood or anything like this would last any longer anyway.
Yeah.
What's that?
I would entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, okay. Mr. Mayor, so moved, on this motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Other business, managers report, you want to
I have a
comment
few
on
things
that a
just to
little
mention
bit?
to the board this evening. Our inspections department saw another record month in single-family residential permits for the month of April. We issued 89 in the month of April, so we set a new record for single-family residential permits. That certainly puts us on a course to surpass our previous record for 2015 for total single-family permits issued within a single calendar year or single fiscal year. Our community center and our art center reopened today with limited programming and safety protocols are in place. Governor Cooper has extended the order on utility cutoffs and late fees for an additional 2 months. So the town's not permitted to charge late fees. We're not permitted to cut off utilities, nor would we want to in a time of a pandemic. And so we continue to monitor what kind of fiscal implications that has on the town. But for the time being, we are going to certainly, obviously, comply with the governor's orders and extend that courtesy to our customers for an additional 2 months. There will be a delay in the move-in and opening of our police station to sometime in mid-June now due to the vendor that is providing the delivery of a fresh air circulation system that is required for this type of building and is also required by code for certificate of occupancy. Due to COVID-19, that vendor is not able to deliver that until the 1st of June, and then it needs to be installed, tested, and signed off on. And so that's going to delay the move and the opening of our police station. But we are going to continue to stay close with our contractors on this and make sure that it's done as quickly as reasonably possible. I attended the first day of the North Carolina League of Municipalities City Vision 2020 annual conference, this year virtually versus in person. It was supposed to be in Wilmington earlier this year, but it was obviously canceled due to COVID-19. And they are having a series of days of sessions that will be both professional development but also business related. The one I attended last week included a legislative update by the league staff, as well as a virtual or a remote video call with Governor Cooper, in addition to the North Carolina League of Municipalities annual business meeting, where new members were elected by the membership to the league board. Commissioner Harris was elected last year for a 2-year term, so he was not up for, his seat was not up for an election this year. He still maintains that seat for another year.
And that is, Commissioner Harris, tell me, your what is your district?
6, I believe.
District 6?
District 6. I remember, I couldn't remember it.
Yeah, District 6.
We're very proud of that.
Well,
We're
thank
very
you.
proud of it.
Thank you. I had to miss the conference last week, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you attending those meetings, and I know many of it's virtual now.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they are.
Technology helps us all.
It does.
That's all I really need to report on this evening that I haven't already previously kept the board abreast of in the last 2 weeks since we've last met. I did include a project status report in your agenda materials that is 18 or 19 pages long with the numerous projects that we have happening or getting ready to occur. And so if you've had the opportunity to review that, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you haven't had the opportunity to review it, when you do, if you have questions, feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to answer those. We do have a closed session this evening under North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A3, and A4, attorney-client privilege and economic development. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I'm going to make a few comments before we kind of go around the room, and I'll finish up mine too. But I wanted to congratulate our high school graduates. The banner outside we're extremely proud of. All of us town board members are, and it's extraordinary for us to be able to do this, and we're so very proud of our graduates of Fuquay-Varina High School this year. And COVID-19 kind of put a damper on many of your graduation, but hopefully this will be a little bit of a highlight, the banners on our town hall here, and we're very proud of that. You know, in a very positive message, we had a peaceful protest yesterday in downtown Fuquay-Varina in reference to the incident that took place in Minnesota. And I'm heartfelt about this. I just feel that we all have to do a better job of reaching out and caring for each other. This is a very important time in our town's, state, and country's history. And all of us need to reach out with compassion and caring and do a better job each day. And I was very appreciative of the peaceful protest that was done here in Fuquay-Varina yesterday, and I wanted to make those comments. As we move around the room, our Mayor Pro Tem, Blake Massengill, for comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Two comments to make tonight in regards to one of the comments that you just made. I'm very proud of a lot of different individuals and what it takes right now with the police department and with some of this unrest that's going on, and not to downplay it by any means, but some of it's very tough at the same time, I believe, to be in a law enforcement job, and the courage it takes to stand up in these situations. I mean, I'm very thankful that the protest and discussion that was held in Fuquay-Varina yesterday was a peaceful one, and I think that shows so many of the positive things that the police department has done in regards to people and in communication with our community. But at the same time, you don't know what's coming down into one of those situations, and so that's strong courage right there. And so, thank you, Mayor, for comments with that. On a second note, we have been doing these virtual meetings. How many times have we done these virtual meetings now, Adam? Probably
This is our fourth. I believe.
We've gotten pretty good at it.
I tell you what, these virtual meetings and the technology that's going on in here has been so impressive to me. How it's continued to change from what we did in the beginning to earphones to wired earphones to now none of that at all.
That's a good
And it's and this technology stuff is so neat. It's completely above me and my pay scale, and you might will tell me with that. But Scott, you and your department has done wonders with this, and this is impressive, and wanted you to know how much we appreciate that and how good this works out. I mean, even comments from the public that have been able to watch these meetings and see what you've done with it, and then how you can interact with people, and it's obvious that you have spent a lot of time in your department on working hard in these meetings too. So Scott, thank you for what y'all have done and helped make this easy for us and easy for the public to participate. And so you also deserve some words on that. I know we have spoken in the past about different ways of doing meetings, and never had a virtual meeting before, but with what you've done is impressive. So thank you, Scott, and thank you, IT. No further business, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I have two comments. First one is to echo the Mayor Pro Tem's comments regarding these virtual meetings. Anybody who knows me knows that I like to carry on lengthy conversations with people. I like to talk. I miss meeting our public in person, so I can do that. But I have been so very impressed with our entire town staff, how they've come together with this virtual meeting platform that we've been using. It's excellent. Again, I have to echo his comments. Kudos to our entire management staff, especially Director Scott Clark and his staff. They've done a great job putting this together. Second thing is a little more humorous. I looked at those pictures of the decking at the South Lakes Park, I guess, or Greenway. I remember when we installed that, and I took my I took my police car and drove the length of it across those decks. Wow. And now I see these pictures, and I could just see my car falling into the marshland there. And when you talked about how it was coming apart, I sat here and shuddered to think how that would have went over, calling the town manager and say, I have wrecked a car by sinking it in the marsh out here. So
probably would not have gone over very well.
It wouldn't have, and so you would not enjoy that call. Neither would I. But I had to laugh when I looked at those pictures, and at the same time, I kind of shook and said, I'm glad that thing was a little more solid back then than it is now. But that's all I got tonight. Good meeting tonight. Thank you for your hard work.
You know, Commissioner Smith, if I'm not mistaken, I either was with you or with Andy Hedrick, and we went out there and did ride, and we were concerned about getting some kind of vehicle. I believe we got one from John Deere or something.
Then that's when we bought the, my brain just froze.
Was it a Gator or a?
It was the little two-wheel.
Yeah.
Oh, the Segway.
The Segway. That's when we bought the Segway. I decided cars didn't need to be going across those bridges, but I did drive a Crown Vic across that bridge. It was an interesting trip.
Yeah. Okay, Commissioner Harris.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to share something that I have written and posted on Facebook. I'd just like to share these comments.
Please.
The tragic events that have occurred in the recent days are deeply disturbing. There has been, of course, loss of life, careers, property, and for some people, even the idea of hope in America. People have taken to the streets, as we've seen in protests, some peacefully and some violently, with both actions sending a message. I am saddened by the mounting frustration and anger and rage felt by so many people who want their voices heard. But it's during times like these we are challenged to refocus and draw upon the qualities that keep us connected. It is our sense of community and belief in the profound strength of the goodness of the human spirit that somehow keeps us connected. It is through staying connected to the highest ideals of respecting and valuing each other that we as a community will be invincible. And let's keep looking up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Harris. Commissioner Wunsch.
I'm thankful for the efforts that have been made, to bring our community together, and certainly, for example, the efforts of our police department to bring our community together, and I think our community just has a very great spirit, and that was reflected in the peaceful protest that we had last night in Fuquay-Varina, and just the all the efforts that have been made prior to this time to make our community the community it is, and so I'm very thankful for that, and would echo all the things about how grateful I was for that peaceful protest that we had in Fuquay-Varina. Very thankful for, again, through a pandemic, the wonderful budget that has been put out and that we'll go forward with now. As has been mentioned, very grateful that we've been able to continue to conduct business in the town of Fuquay-Varina and our board meetings, which have been utilizing this technology that's allowed us to continue to reach people. Very grateful for that. And in conclusion would say, as the Mayor Pro Tem so aptly said years ago, the sun continues to shine bright in Fuquay-Varina, and I'm thankful for that.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor Byrne. I'm glad that Mayor Pro Tem had the comments he did for Scott and our IT department. I actually was thinking when Adam was talking about the first actual virtual budget, and I thought some of that credit had to go to IT too for making that happen this year. So Scott, you're just a rock star, and we're glad you're working for us. The other thing would be I earlier heard Commissioner Harris talking about an earlier program that he brought back to Fuquay-Varina from one of the national meetings, the National League meetings, the Weed and Seed program. Are you talking about?
Yes.
And his feeling that helped lay a foundation that has been built upon for some trust between law enforcement and our community that often feels without a voice and underserved. But I think those barbershop rap sessions have to have helped too, and the efforts that our police department, with Chief Honstock's leadership, has put toward that. I think that I feel good about the way the things evolved yesterday with the protest, and I think we have to continue to engage in efforts like that in hopes that we can maintain a level of connection and trust in our community that will help everyone feel like they have a voice.
Just a couple more comments, from me. I was called late this afternoon, I talked to Adam about it, and by the News and Observer, and they wanted to know if we were going to declare a curfew in Fuquay-Varina this evening. I said absolutely not. We felt very good about our community, and I talked about the peaceful protest that we had yesterday, the relationship that we feel that we have with our community, with our police department. And a little bit like Commissioner Harris and Commissioner Gardner talk about, the relationship we have in our community that's been around for many years. I heard from several of the ministers in the community yesterday, and Carl Trice took an active role here, in Fuquay-Varina. And I was just pleased with our community coming together in a very profound, peaceful way. And these are serious matters. I mean, these are not, we can't take them lightly. We've got to do a better job. All of us have to do a better job with this, and I plan to. One other thought that I have, the Wake County Mayors Association, we had a meeting tonight, but we're getting where we're bumping into, we're trying to meet every week, but it's bumping into my meeting nights with our town board and several other mayors around Wake County now, because we either have to meet on that third Monday or we bump into each other's different times. But coming up, we've got, we had Campo meeting and a few other meetings this past month, and we'll continue to do a lot more of those virtual meetings, and the Metro mayors have been a real good resource for both Adam and I. Yeah. And we try to stay real close attuned with the North Carolina League of Municipalities and really understanding what other communities are going through. And now is a very painful time. We're blessed to be where we are today. I will entertain a motion that we are ready to go to closed session.
Mayor, make a motion to go to closed session as recommended by manager.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Why don't we take a